But we begin tonight with your tax dollars at work in Kevin McCarthy's Republican-led House of Representatives. We are staring down the barrel of a potential government shutdown that could paralyze our economy. And we're going on 6 months of zero military promotions, leaving our military paralyzed due to one Republican senator's obsession with controlling women's bodies. All of it due to Republican intransigence. Well, today, under the pretense of oversight, the House Judiciary Committee, led by the world's worst wrestling coach, Jim Jordan, grilled Attorney General Merrick Garland. And if for one moment you thought Republicans might take their oversight role seriously, look no further than this insight into their vision of the most pressing issues facing Americans.
There was a World Naked Bike ride in Madison, Wisconsin, just a couple months ago, and I sent you a letter 2 months ago asking if you had a problem with that.
World Naked Bike Ride. The Republican display today was a peek for those of us on Earth 1 into the bizarro world of right-wing fever dreams on Earth 2 that would only make sense to the most brain-addled Fox viewers, with a heavy emphasis on one thing and one thing only.
Doesn't it look weird that he's become this immediate success in the art world as his dad is president of the United States? Isn't that odd?
I'm not going to comment about any specific...
Not going to comment, not going to investigate.
I don't know when it happened. I don't know what happened because I'm not involved, but it happened under the previous administration. That's so logically fallacious.
I'm sorry, I'm not following.
It's one thing to have a gun charge in Delaware. That doesn't involve the President of the United States. But Burisma? Oh, my.
I think I've tried to make clear that I don't know the specifics of the investigation. Much of what you are describing occurred during the Trump administration, during a Justice Department appointed by President Trump.
No, it didn't. This is 4.5 years, this investigation. We're talking about the last few years.
Never mind the fact that Republicans went down that road after Attorney General Garland spelled out, like a high school civics teacher, exactly what his role is and how the Justice Department functions.
I am not the president's lawyer. I will add, I am not Congress's prosecutor. The Justice Department works for the American people. Our job is to follow the facts and the law, and that is what we do.
Now, despite reiterating the independence of the DOJ over and over and over again, Republicans threw out all manner of specious allegations, accusing the Justice Department of all sorts of malfeasance in the investigation into the president's son by a Trump-appointed prosecutor, no less. One Republican member even suggested that Garland be held in contempt of Congress, leaving Democratic members Eric Swalwell and Adam Schiff to remind that it's another Justice Department special counsel investigation, Jack Smith's probe into Donald Trump's attempt to overthrow the 2020 election, that committee chairman Jim Jordan is trying to whitewash.
That is quite rich, because the guy who's leaving the hearing room right now, Mr. Jordan, is about 500 days into evading his subpoena, about 500 days. So if we're going to talk about contempt of Congress, let's get real.
The chairman would abuse the power of this committee by trying to interfere in the prosecutions of Donald Trump, by trying to use the committee's power of subpoena to compel criminal discovery, in effect, making the committee a kind of criminal defense firm for the former president.
In fact, despite questioning Attorney General Garland for more than 5 hours, it was largely up to Democrats to do the committee's actual job and cut through Republicans' nonsense.
It is just sad that this committee has also been transformed into a soapbox for political conspiracy theorists, instead of focusing on the really important issues that the American people care about.
Does the rhetoric regarding the Biden case have any basis in reality?
No, it does not.
What we are doing here today is talking about a lot of conspiracy theories.
I implore the public to see through the sham. I have no doubt that you will hear a deluge of conspiracy theories and baseless accusations. They will quote freely from so-called whistleblowers who have been broadly discredited or contradicted.
All at the same time of a looming shutdown. The other side of the aisle cannot govern. And so they have this hearing, which was supposed to be oversight, and use it as a big distraction because they are failing to govern.
Joining me now is the Congresswoman you just saw, Madeleine Dean of Pennsylvania, who took part in today's hearing, and Andrew Weissman, former FBI General Counsel and MSNBC legal analyst. Thank you both for being here. And Congresswoman, the other day I did a little rant that I sat home and wrote just in watching Republicans on television and asking whether, isn't there any chance that Republicans are simply embarrassed by what their representatives are doing? And I have to be honest with you today. The bits that I watched of this hearing today, I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that this is our government. I'm embarrassed for Republicans, though they seem to have no capacity for being embarrassed for themselves. And I just wonder how it felt for you to sit through this day of, I can't call it anything other than nonsense.
I feel embarrassment for our committee, for the dignity of our work. I feel that embarrassment. And speaking to other moderate Republicans who are sadly too quiet, they are embarrassed for this. I'm on other committees. I'm on Foreign Affairs. There is a dignity to our disagreement. You see, in this committee, the Judiciary Committee, there is no dignity. There was no oversight. This is fecklessness and fealty to one former president. And I was thinking, you know, the Attorney General was sworn in to tell the truth. I wish that all of us had been sworn in to tell the truth, because you saw the lie after disinformation on this committee. It is shameless, but they know no shame.
You talked about the fact that if he had stayed in the room, the chairman of the committee, Jim Jordan. So this is someone who is in defiance of subpoenas himself.
Yes.
And yet is attempting to command people to honor the subpoenas that he wants to throw out about, I guess, I don't know, Hunter Biden's personal life, whatever it is that he wants. Did any Republicans remain to listen to their counterparts on the other side of the aisle? Because you talked to me before this started and saying you sat through the hearing. Did they?
I sat through most of the hearing until I'm one of the later ones to speak and ask questions. And I wanted to be there because we do have a responsibility for oversight. We have a responsibility to the serious problems this country faces. And so while I began by saying, look, this is a sham, this is not oversight, this is actually them just politicking and doing the bidding of a former president, the very same MO that he uses, which is to tear down Americans' confidence in the independent institutions. You saw Attorney General Merrick Garland with real pride talking about the rule of law, the 115,000 members of his team in the Department of Justice who are trying to keep us safe. All the while they are being threatened by this political rhetoric that is full of lies. Some of the Republicans stayed, but they mostly popped in and out. Many of the Democrats stayed, not in defense of the Attorney General. He is independent. He's doing his job. He's doing it with allegiance to the Constitution and the rule of law. I think he did extremely well. I think they did extremely poorly, and the American people are witness.
You know, and Andrew, you know, you worked in the Justice Department. I mean, the thing is that part of the reason Republicans are able to get away with so much of the shenanigans that they do is that a lot of Americans don't really understand necessarily how these institutions work. And so when Donald Trump talks about the Attorney General as if that is his lawyer, I thought it was really important for Merrick Garland to say, no, I'm not the president's lawyer. Wouldn't be Trump's lawyer if he was president, and I'm not Biden's lawyer, and I'm also not you guys' lawyer. I'm not the Congress's hatchet man. Can you just talk about the civics of it? Because I don't necessarily think people understand the full role of the DOJ and the fact that, no, he personally is not prosecuting Donald Trump.
That is the key difference to my mind as somebody who worked in the Justice Department under many different administrations between Donald Trump and everyone else. And that includes Republican and Democratic presidents.